cheaper than our producer's underage sister, edgier than the stuff shown on late-night television, newer than Kim Kardashian's ex. Live from Orlando, it's Crazy Train Radio.
This is Booker T, five-time WCW champion and general manager of Friday Night SmackDown. You listen to Crazy Train Radio. Now, can you dig that, sucker?
Hey, folks. Got another great WWE Hall of Famer on the line. We are actually able to get through thanks to his publisher. Which, speaking of which, the book is Booker T, From Prison to Promise, Life Before the Squared Circle. Booker, what's going on?
Oh, man, another day in paradise.
Good. Well, before we talk about the book and your career and everything else, first thing I got to ask you, how's the arm holding up? We know you had surgery recently for it.
Yeah, my elbow, I had a torn tricep. Something that had been nagging me for about a year, actually. And finally, it was just time to get it fixed after the Hall of Fame. I did a spinneroonie on stage, and I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I had to go in and get it fixed up. I never realized over the years, that, how many times I had to use that elbow, for the spinneroonie. But that night on that hardwood floor, it took me back to my childhood.
Well, Did you joke around and say, hey, Vince, being the SmackDown general manager, hey, Vince, does this count for insurance and all, injury on the job? Or
Actually, the company paid for everything. They made sure they take care of me. It's actually a great thing. WWE, as far as their wellness policy, they really have stepped up as far as taking care of the talent. So I just feel pretty fortunate.
There you go. Well, obviously, how long do you think you're going to be off the road from doing your GM gig?
I just got my stitches out just yesterday, and I should have my brace off in the next 2 weeks. So hopefully I'll be back to work within the next couple of weeks. By Money in the Bank, that would be great. To see the return of Rob Van Dam. So I'm looking forward to hopefully making it back by Money in the Bank.
That definitely for sure, because obviously I know I was talking to you on Monday when we got this finally set up privately off the air, and I'm from Philly, so it'd be nice to see you in town for sure. But actually, let's jump into the book a little bit at first. This is obviously, like I said, talks about your career before you really get into wrestling and your heyday and all. With this book, what is the biggest thing you think fans could take from reading this?
It's very, very simple. You read the book, you see the life of Booker T. It wasn't, a life with a silver spoon or anything like that. Trials and tribulations, struggles. If Booker T could make it, anybody can. When you look at it from that perspective, having, so many strikes against him, so many potholes to, go around and still to make it, to the level that he did. It's possible for anybody, especially other guys who have gone down that road, who have gotten in trouble, who may not be bad kids, but just may have been caught up in certain circumstances and see, hey, man, I need to make a change. That's pretty much what it's about.
Well, what can you tell me about, obviously you go in depth in the book, but what can you say about the South Park section that you had grown up? And since you're still a Houston guy, has that neighborhood changed at all?
Yeah, it's changed a whole lot. It's gotten a lot worse. Growing up in South Park, it wasn't, I tell you, when I grew up, it wasn't, gangs wasn't as prevalent as they are now, but everybody, we had our cliques. And myself, I had, maybe 3 or 4 friends that I hung out with. And that's the one thing I always talk to kids about when I go and speak, how easy it is to get caught up in that whirlwind, how peer pressure can drive you in the wrong directions, you know, and I think that was my problem right there. Of course, it was a lot of avenues, a lot of ways to get in trouble, but I think peer pressure, following someone instead of stepping up and being a leader, is what got me in a whole lot of trouble.
Jake, you said you had a question there?
Was losing your parents sort of like a negative influence within your whole youth and growing up?
Losing my parents, losing my father at 10 months old, I really don't remember that, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't say that had an influence at all. Losing my mother, at age 13, close to 14 years old, definitely it affected me in a sense to where I really didn't know, what was going to happen after that. Everybody else had parents. At that point, all of my friends had parents. I'm sure there was orphan kids in the world, but I had to see life from a whole different perspective at that point, and I totally rebelled. I lost focus on a whole lot of things because I thought I was going to go and stay with my brother, as you're going to read in the book, and that didn't happen. So after that happened, I really didn't care about school. I didn't care about living. I didn't care if I lived to be 25. And definitely, I went into a downward spiral.
Well, speaking of that, and what kind of relationship? Obviously, we know your brother, who most people know as Stevie Ray. How much of an influence was he with you, even now as adults?
Well, my brother was always my hero when I was coming up as a kid. He could do no wrong, but one thing we got to realize and understand as well, my brother was a young man himself. He was a kid in the sense himself, when my mother passed, you know what I mean? So he couldn't take care of me. He could have, but it was just as hard on him, I think, as it was on the rest of our family. But after I came home from prison, my brother was there for me. He was the structure in my life that gave me that one thing that I needed to make it to the next level, and that was extending his hand and saying, hey, I'm going to help you out and help you find a job, but no matter what that job is, do it to the best of your ability, and if you can do that, I'll help you, and just that right there, those words, and him believing in me, gave me a little bit more of what I needed to go forward, so definitely my brother, he's my hero since I was a kid, and I think he'll always be that in some sense.
Well, how much of this, obviously going to prison and everything in the book here, life lessons that you honestly have learned, how do you think it has shaped you as a father, 3 kids yourself now?
Oh, man, I think it shaped me as a man more than anything. Stepping up to the plate and taking care of your kids is first and foremost. When I came from prison, my son was in foster care, and his mother was on drugs, and I was a young man myself, and I had to make a decision from that point whether I was going to be a man or whether I was going to be a boy, and when I go out and hang out and party with my friends and whatnot. So I made the decision, go and get full custody of my son, single parent, at 4 years old, and it made me who I am today. Losing my parents at a young age, I don't think, of course, it's something that we never wish on anyone. But I can honestly tell you that it made me see and how special it really is to be there for your kids. I got twins now that be 3 years old in August, so I got a 31-year-old and now I got 3-year-olds, and it's still more important, just as important for me to be there for them in every way, shape, form, or fashion.
Well, last question on the personal side with this as well. Do you enjoy it now more with the twins than you were able to with your older son, Brandon?
Well, I'm more experienced now. I know what life means. I know, how really important it really, really is to be there in every way. I thought I was there for my son, Brandon, in every way that I possibly could have, but in retrospect and hindsight, you look at it, I really wasn't there because as much as I should have, because I was on the road. I was trying to, make a life for us. I was trying to make sure he had a roof over his head and clothes on his back, but I realized, this many years later, a lot of that stuff wasn't as important as actually being there. And that's why I'm so fortunate right now to be there for my twins, on a weekly basis. I'm at home 5 days a week, and they're going to be able to see see me on a regular basis, as well as I'm going to be able to see that growth in them every day. So definitely it's totally a different thing.
Well, I guess I'm assuming you and Brandon have, now that he's a grown man, that you guys have been able to have conversations and everything is good now.
Well, everything is not as good as it could be. You know what I mean? I think there's still some resentment there on his part from in some ways. And then there's a lot of resentment on my half as well as Brandon go as well. And you'll read that in the book as well, because my sons somewhat took a similar road that I did, a road that I tried so hard to steer him away from.
Well, obviously, like you said, there's a lot of those stories in the book, which actually we had heard from the publisher and a few other people. Maybe you can confirm it. You're actually working on a second book?
Yeah, actually, I'm working on my wrestling book. Everybody all have been, clamoring, actually, when is the wrestling book coming out? I mean, they've gotten this story. Now they want to, hear about the wrestling story, Of course, I always want to give that side as well, but I wanted to let everyone see exactly where Booker T came from so they can understand, what drove me to become who I was in the business, in the sports entertainment business. All that stuff that I went through as a kid, it drove me to become the person who I am today, and the person that I've become.
Well, obviously, if we can for a few minutes, let's jump into the wrestling side of things, Booker. Obviously, like you said, your brother was there from jump, but it was his idea, from what I had read in the book here, his idea to say, let's try this wrestling thing out?
Actually, it wasn't let's try this thing out. He was like, how'd you like to try it out? It was something that he was going to do regardless. But then again, there's my brother, my big brother, looking out for me and wanting to see me, do something positive as well. He asked me if I wanted to try it. And of course, him being my brother and me wanting to follow him just like I did when I was a kid, I said, yeah, I would love to try it. Guy actually that I was working for sponsored me to go to wrestling school. And, pretty much the rest is history. But it was a dream that my brother, I think, had from when he was a little boy.
Jake, you just sent me a message saying you had something as well.
Yeah, no, Booker, were you and your brother big fans of wrestling growing up, or was it until, later on when he decided, okay, I'm going to wrestling school, that you became a fan?
No, we've always watched wrestling. I know the history of wrestling. I'm not like one of those guys who just got in it, and, it was fun and, stuck with it. No, I know the history of wrestling from way back in the day here in Houston Wrestling. I was a promoter by the name of Paul Bosch, and he promoted wrestling. He was a wrestler back in the day as well. I wear the ring of Paul Bosch, the big gold diamond ring that I wear. It's the ring of Paul Bosch. So definitely I know the history of it. I've definitely studied it. Definitely I knew all of the good wrestlers that was back in the day when I was watching that as a kid. I knew which ones made the most money. I knew which ones was the best wrestlers. I knew which guys was the guy that was just going to get beat up every week. So I knew which guy I wanted to be as well.
Well, what's that? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry there, Jake. Booker, how long would you say it took to go into WCW from the time you started training?
I was in WCW within 2 years.
Okay, and did you notice because they used to have the expression of where the big boys play there for during the time you were there? Did it really seem like that within the 2 years? Wow, how quickly you were in the big league, so to say.
Well, I know it's totally abnormal to make it, to the big leagues that quick, especially coming from, not second generation, not knowing anybody, not having any buddies in the business or anything. I know it's pretty relatively quick to make it, but I always felt like, when I first got in the wrestling ring, it was deja vu. It was always like a place that I'd been, my whole life, but I had never been. It came so easy for me. I always knew that I was going to, make it. I never knew how big I would become, of course, but I always knew I was going to make it. I would sit at home and watch wrestling on television, and I knew I was better than, a lot of those guys, and I had never took a lesson, so, when I first got into it, when my brother and I first got into it, we would do, high schools and stuff like that, and I was GI Bro, and the fans would go crazy, and I really didn't know why. Even still to this day, it's really hard for me to fathom, but I knew I had something. I knew I found, my niche in life, and I knew I wasn't going to let it go, and so I just, tried my hardest to, put myself in a really, really good position to make it. And that where my brother came into play again, as far as him getting a try out in the Global Wrestling Federation, and then me following him down there. And then the next thing we become the Ebony Experience, a tag team, that really made a huge mark in the Dallas area, So it's just all about being in the right place at the right time and finding, your niche. And I finally found my niche.
And about the Harlem Heat name, if you and Stevie were from Houston, how come you guys aren't called Houston Heat instead of Harlem Heat?
It does get, really, really hot in Houston. Yesterday it was 97 degrees. But when my brother and I, was coming up, we always watched a lot of black movies. One of them was Shaft. Shaft was always based out of New York. Another movie called Cotton Comes to Harlem. We used to watch all the time, when we were kids, and it always just seemed tougher coming from a place like Harlem. So that's why we adopted Harlem instead of Houston, just because it sounded tougher. No other reason.
All right. Okay. Favorite team? Who would it be? Whether it's Hall and Nash or the Steiners?
Favorite tag team? Definitely had a lot of fun matches with the Steiners, of course, but probably our all-time rivals will be the Nasty Boys. I mean, it wasn't the greatest, run of all times or anything. It was rough and it was bumpy. It was a little sloppy a lot of times, but had a whole lot of fun working with the Nasties.
Well, Booker, obviously, after you guys split up, you and your brother did his thing. You start to have a successful singles career, obviously. Towards the end of WCW, you ended up having countless titles and ended up winning the heavyweight title the last night of Nitro. Was it truly disorganized there, and did it still mean something to you to win that title on that last night there?
Definitely it was disorganized, to say the least. But did it mean something to me to win the championship on the final night? Of course, you gotta look at where I started at in WCW, at the bottom of the bottom rung, and then to make, my way all the way to the top rung to, the final match in WCW is Booker T holding up the United States champion as well as the World Heavyweight Championship. Nothing could ever take that away from me. Nothing could ever tarnish that for me because, like I say, I know where I came from and how hard I really worked, to get to that position, not ever knowing, would I ever make it to that point, not ever thinking that the company would put me in that position. But, by the grace of God and the fans wanted to see Booker T in that position, they made it happen, so I'm definitely it's definitely something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life because it really was a special moment for me in every form of fashion.
Well, when you went over to WWE, and obviously then we'll fast forward towards the end there, but a lot of people had said when you first made the transition over to WWE that you had seemed to be easily buried because you were quote-unquote WCW talent. And when you had that run-in with The Rock, it's like, who were you? Like that kind of interaction. What was it about you that was able to overcome that and become even bigger in the WWE?
Well, because first of all, I got no ego. I know it's wrestling. It's entertainment. I don't take it serious by any means other than that when I went to WWE, I had done it all. I had, rose to the top of the company in WCW. Now, I couldn't be realistic and think that I was going to be able to take all that success with me over to WWE, just because of the rivalry that they've had for so many years. So I had to go over there and I had to prove myself to those guys, not just the management and staff, but all of my peers. I had to prove myself to those guys that I was worthy enough to be a part of, that roster. Those guys worked really, really hard. Those guys worked tirelessly, countless hours, on the road, banging the pavement. And I had to prove myself that I was willing to be a part of that first and foremost in order to make it. I had to prove that I could make it in the locker room first and foremost before those guys were going to accept me. So I didn't go to WWE expecting that those guys are just going to accept me with open arms. And I think that was the best thing that I could have done.
Well, would you say, because obviously most fans, as far as the wrestling genre is concerned, would you say a fellow local near you would be the hardest to earn his respect as far as The Undertaker?
I'll say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Do you think that a fellow Houston area native, The Undertaker, roster-wise, was probably the hardest to earn his respect?
Honestly, he was the first person who came up to me and gave me advice. So it wasn't hard at all. Just going over there and working and showing what kind of person I was, showing my character, I think is what made me succeed in WWE. People knowing what kind of person I am, stand-up guy. My word is my reputation. I've never been one of those guys who cowered down to pressure or anything like that. I've always been one of the guys who stepped right up to it and looked at dead in the eye. No matter what, in this business, the worst thing that someone could ever do to me was fire me. And I always felt like my talent, was going to prevail through any of that.
Well, obviously, fast forward, you went through TNA with your wife after the King gimmick in WWE. You come back home, so to say, which was this year's WrestleMania theme. First as a commentator, now the GM, and also the Hall of Fame. Can you talk about and sum that up, that part of the return home, so to say, to WWE?
It just goes to the volume of work that I put in and respect that I've seemed to have gone, over the years, not just from, like I say, the wrestlers, but the staff and, the boss, Vince McMahon. I really appreciate him for, giving me the opportunity to still be a part of something that I love to do so much. Of course, we all, time passes, and we all got to think about, what's next. And what's next for me is still being a part of the business, still being a part of what I love to do, still being able to give back and, show these young guys what it's going to take for them to one day be future Hall of Famers, go out there and have those great matches that they can look back on and say, man, I remember that. That's where I'm at right now. I'm totally content with this stage of the game that I'm in right now, not being an in-ring performer. Out there, I'm living for the roar of the crowd. I'm so glad that I've grown up and I know exactly what it means to be a man and pass the torch. So right now I really can say that this is the best part of my wrestling career, to enjoy the fruits of the labor that I've put in for so many years.
Well, speaking of the young kids, real quick, you actually still run a promotion down in Houston area, correct?
Yeah, I still have my wrestling promotion, Reality of Wrestling. You can check it out at realityofwrestling.com. Of course, you can check out what's happening with my wrestling school as well on realityofwrestling.com. So we're just I'm just trying to find the next superstars of wrestling, as well as create other stuff for myself. I'm doing other shows that I'm putting together and just trying to be more than just a wrestler per se.
Well, we had one fan question that came in before we let you go, and obviously it has to do with your WWE tenure currently. Working with Teddy Long, what can you tell us about Teddy? Because he just seems like a character and a half.
I've been with Teddy for many, many years now. Teddy and I, almost 20 years now. Teddy and I have been together in some form. Teddy's the ultimate survivor. To come from WCW back in the day when he was in the era that he was in, of course, which was before me, and to still be there today, going strong. Definitely, he's a guy that I look at for mentorship. He's a guy that I look at with a high form of respect. And he's a guy that hopefully I could be like in some form. Teddy has had like a 10-year tenure as general manager and now assistant GM. And I'm hoping I can last as long as he did.
Well, we can, and I know Booker can testify to this. Dealt with Teddy on a social level on a couple of occasions in the Northeast here. Teddy, and we won't throw Teddy under the bus completely, but what an entertaining guy and the stories he has.
Oh man, let me tell you, Teddy got so many stories. Because he worked with so many guys and he's seen so many different forms. Teddy has been in this game now for, I guess, close to 30 years, and he's seen so many different changes of the way the business is being run. So definitely, Teddy got a lot of stories.
Yeah, you look at the guy and you're going, there's no effing way that happened, and he's dead serious with some of the stuff he's seen. Well, Booker, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day. Go back to those running around kids. The book is From Prison to Promise, Life Before the Squared Circle. Well, when is the next book expected to come out?
Sometime in 14. I'm not sure. We don't have an exact date right now, but definitely could be looking at 4 to 14, maybe around SummerSlam, something like that, maybe.
Is that going to be a WWE book, or are you going to do it out on your own as well, again?
It's through Medallion as well. Medallion and I, we have a really, really good relationship, and I had a relationship with Medallion before I came back to WWE, so WWE was really on board about just letting me continue and finishing the project. So I'm fortunate in so many different ways.
From Prison to Promise, Booker, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.